Well, starting the market action, a volatile day saw the Lal Street closing the session flat. Markets down for the fifth straight day, posting the biggest loss that we've seen since June of 2022. Now, the Nifty and the Sensex failed to hold on to the intraday gains, ending mildly in the red. The broader markets fared slightly better. The BSE companies have erased a market cap of over 7 lakh crore rupees in the last 5 sessions. For the series, the Nifty lost 2% to record its biggest fall in a series since September. Surabhi joins us now to wrap up the day's trading action for us. Surabhi, continues to be weak for the markets.
Well, this is a market that seems to be in no man's land. Nothing is moving it. The bulls will, however, see this as a sign of relief, considering the huge drubbing that we saw yesterday in trade. Today was a very cautious session right from the word go. The market was trading in a very narrow 120 to about 150 point trading band. We did have the monthly expiry played out, so there was some volatility around 3 o'clock, but net result is that we've closed at the flat line with absolutely no sense of direction whatsoever. The talking points continue to be the same, direction of interest rates and whether the RBI will hike again in April, what the Fed is doing, rising bond yields in India and obviously internationally, and that's really keeping a lid on momentum. Let me quickly come down to today's movers and shakers. So there was some shine in the metal side of the market, actually metals and commodities. So you had stocks like Hindalco, Tata Steel, a little bit of green on an ONGC for that matter during the course of the day. So some of these names were active. Then you had a couple of the banks that started to come back in towards the close of the session, and that prevented a wider fall. So names like Axis Bank, SBI, Kotak Mahindra Bank, they pretty much sort of held the floor for the market, if I could say that. And then there was, of course, the stock that has been the star of 2023 after being the star of 2022, and I'm talking about ITC. Lifetime highs today for the stock. Once again, it's inching closer to the 400 mark, and that gave some respite to the bulls. But then pressure on the other side. The trends are very unclear, and a lot of the heavier stocks like Reliance, HDFC Bank, they continue to see selling pressure today, and there was not much clarity. Broader markets, well, really it's extremely stock specific in terms of the action. For instance, a Sonata Software today, where the company's gone ahead and done an acquisition, that was in focus. Zeev was in focus because of all the ongoings at the NCLT in the company, then challenging that at the NCLAT. Stock was down 15% at one point in time, but then closed with a cut of just about 3 to 4%. So it's extremely stock specific. There isn't a momentum play in this market. And for what it's worth, I mean, the market's really searching for triggers and a sense of direction that doesn't seem to be coming right now.
Surabhi, many thanks for joining us. And there is no respite for the Adani Group either. 8 of the group's 10 listed entities ended in the red today. Adani Total, Adani Green, Adani Transmission and Adani Power hitting lower circuits over the course of the trading session. The group has lost a market cap to the tune of 20,000 crore rupees today. And this takes the total market cap loss since the Hindenburg report was released on the 24th of January to around 12 lakh crore rupees. As of today, the Adani Group's market cap stands at 7.4 lakh crores. Now, the value of Life Insurance Corporation's investment in the Adani Group has turned negative. An analysis by CNBC-TV18 based on public disclosures by LIC shows that the insurer has sold 10% of its holding in January this year. The Hindenburg report was released on the 24th of January. The LIC chairman, M.R. Kumar, told CNBC-TV18 that Adani shares have not been sold since the report was released. But as things stand, LIC is sitting on losses of 234 crore rupees on its Adani investment to date. Moving on, here's the action from the commodity market. Crude oil prices continue to trade in a range. Prices have seen some recovery after 6 days of losses. Concerns over potential interest rate hikes by central banks and a build-up in crude inventory weighing on sentiment. But back home, the big corporate story. Zee Entertainment has now moved the NCLAT, seeking a stay on the insolvency proceedings. Yesterday, the NCLT, on the back of IndusInd Bank's plea, allowed the initiation of insolvency proceedings against Zee. Lata joins us now to explain what this could mean for the company's proposed merger with Sony and what legal experts have to say. Lata.
The company Zee Entertainment had no option but to go to NCLAT because the NCLT process has to be stopped. They have to get a stay. If the NCLT process runs, then the promoters and the management are taken off and the committee of creditors will take over the company, which obviously they don't want because they have to run the company and conduct the merger. Now, what are the chances that Zee will get a stay? The chances, according to legal sources, is good because the loan in dispute is not something that Z has taken from IndusInd. Apparently, what Z has done is, Z is itself almost debt-free. It has given a comfort to IndusInd in a loan it has given to its old group company, City Network. And the loan, in technical language, arrangement is called Debt Service Reserve Account. And apparently, the comfort that Z gave was that it will always ensure that in that account, 1 quarter's interest and principal is maintained. But then City Network became an NP. It defaulted. And now IndusInd is asking Z to pay up that money because it gave that comfort letter. It is seeing it as a guarantor. Z has taken IndusInd to the Delhi High Court where it is fighting that case. So chances are Z will tell NCLAT that this is actually a loan in dispute that IndusInd is trying to take from them, and therefore this NCLT petition should be quashed. Now, does NCLAT have the right? There are precedents that NCLAT can take such a view. The Supreme Court in the Vidarbha Industries case had said that NCLAT can, or for that matter even NCLT, can decide whether to admit a case or not on the merits of the case. And here Z has a good chance of saying that this is a bad case in the first place. The other things that apparently Z can bring forth is that the claim was made by IndusInd during COVID, and at that time many of those cases were not allowed because of the COVID period. So the case is not even maintainable. Z can also argue that when NCLT pronounced the judgment, it had not allowed Z to make a case. It had only taken written submission, not entertained them in person, and therefore procedure was not followed. According to Legal, Z has a good chance of getting a stay, but until the stay comes, you can't be sure.
Yes, we cannot preempt what the NCLAT may or may not do. Lathamani,
yeah, Shri, apparently yes, even the amount in dispute is only 83 crore, we are given to understand.
All right, we will be tracking that developing story. Lata, many thanks for joining us. Now, Bengaluru is playing host to the first major G20 event under India's leadership. Finance ministers and central bank governors will be in a huddle to discuss several issues that plague the global economy. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman met with US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen today. Yellen addressed the media earlier, asserting that the support for Ukraine is her top priority. She also spoke about working with countries to avoid export restrictions on food grains. Yellen also spoke about the stress being faced by many emerging economies and called on China to help restructure debt for countries like Sri Lanka, which are struggling to stay afloat.
I will continue to push for all bilateral official creditors, including China, to participate in meaningful debt treatments for developing countries and emerging markets in distress. I will also be discussing international coordination on debt restructuring for middle-income countries.
Well, that is the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and Parikshit Luthra joins us now live from Bengaluru. Parikshit, meetings underway. In our conversation with the World Bank President David Malpass, he was hopeful that there could be a positive outcome as far as the debt resolution matter is concerned. What are you picking up from the conversations that you've had?
Well, the conversation around debt restructuring is bound to be a tricky one, a sensitive one. We believe that no proposal for haircut is acceptable to China. In fact, China is urging other nations to urge the multilateral development banks to take a haircut as well. So there seems to be a deadlock on that front. We believe that discussions on the communique, the G20 communique, will go on till late tonight. There are some meetings which are also taking place at 1 a.m. where central bank governors, finance ministers are participating. So you can understand the sensitivity around issues like debt, sensitivity around issues like Ukraine as well. So Secretary Janet Yellen, while she was addressing the press a short while back, said that building support for Ukraine and highlighting the economic impact of the war will be her #1 priority. But whether the communique names Russia in the statement, that remains to be seen. Seems very unlikely because G20 works with consensus. There are two major meetings going on currently as we speak. And let me also add that all major central bank governors of G20 nations are here. We also saw the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, here a short while ago. He was going into another meeting. There are discussions ongoing on the cryptocurrency framework as well. There is a discussion going on payments infrastructure, cross-border payments, and also generally about the state of the global economy. So let's see what the key outcomes are. Nirmala Sitharaman has a packed schedule. She has at least 10 meetings, bilateral meetings over the next 2 days.
Yes, it is going to be a packed schedule for the finance minister, and we will keep coming back to Parikshit for the latest there from the G20 meetings underway in Bengaluru. We will head into a break, but up next, an Aon survey highlights that salaries in India are expected to increase by 10.3%